And in the same way, I feel like Pudge is in that category as where he could get in through his glove, through his leadership and all that. That's all.
Okay. All right, so I get the honor of getting the next two players on this list, and these two are also two of my favorite of all time. And it's going to be Rafael Palmiero and Manny Ramirez. Rafael Palmiero accumulated 569 home runs. A lot of people don't know that about this man. This man had power. He had 1,835 RBIs, which is a top 15 number of all time. Think about players today like Chris Davis and, like you said, Sammy Sosa early on. They all had big strikeout numbers that hit over 500 home runs, that have a lot of home run power. Rafael Palmiero struck out 100 times once in 20 years. Once over 100 strikeouts for a guy with 569 home runs. He also walked 1,353 times. So his walk numbers were higher than his strikeout numbers. That is absolutely rare today. You do not see power hitters have more walks than strikeouts. That just showed the discipline this man had at the plate. Let's not also forget the man had 3,020 hits. He scored 90-plus runs in 12 of his 20 years. He had a 288 career average, a 371 OBP. He had 8 top 10 MVP voting. He was in the top 10 8 times. Now, he only had 4 All-Star games, which is really weird, but, I mean, All-Star games in every sport seems to be a joke nowadays anyway. If you put everything together with Rafael Palmiero, the hits, the home runs, the walk-to-strikeout ratio, scoring 90-plus runs in 12 years, you gotta get, this man is a Hall of Famer, hands down. If you take steroids and you're good at every single thing, I mean, let's be honest here, Palmiero was good at everything. He was even a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. You can't say anything else about this man. Now, the problem is, when you think steroids, the one thing you're gonna think is Rafael Palmiero sitting there pointing at the jury and said, "I do not take the steroids." Well, that really hurt him, to be honest, because he was like the face of it. That thing right there might have screwed him out of the Hall of Fame, because if you look at the numbers, it's undoubtable. And have you ever heard a bad thing about Rafael Palmiero before steroids? The man was a legend in every single way. He was a great man, a great guy, a great hitter, a great power hitter, great fielder, Hall of Fame. The guy needs to be there. What do you think, Euchre Squad?
I agree with you 100%. Rafael Palmiero needs to be in the Hall of Fame. You have more walks to strikeouts in that long of a career, being a notorious power hitter. I mean, that alone is huge. Yep. And then also blasting all those home runs, which I think a lot of people forget about Rafael Palmiero as an average fan. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. And his numbers don't lie. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely.
Coordination?
Yeah, I agree. Rafael Palmiero, I mean, I hated seeing the Cardinals play the Orioles at any time. The guy was just like you said, Mexican. He's good at everything. I mean, I would dream about the Cardinals trading for Rafael Palmiero. I mean, it would be like St. Louis would have gone crazy.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Yeah, I believe with his numbers, with or without the steroids. Because you can't say he was on the steroids his entire career. I really don't believe that to be true. I could be wrong because I wasn't there, but yeah, he is a legend. I believe he belongs in Cooperstown, and soon. I mean, really, he really does belong there.
I just want to throw one last thing for everyone that was in my fantasy league. I traded Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, and one other player for Rafael Palmiero my first year in fantasy sports. That's how much I like Rafael Palmiero. I just wanted to throw that in there to show you how this was before the steroid thing, just to let you know how good of a man this guy was and how good of a player he was. I mean, it's amazing. The next guy I have is Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez accumulated 555 home runs in his career. He had 1,831 RBIs. But that's not the most impressive thing, believe it or not. This man had a 312 career batting average and a 411 OBP. I don't know how many of you know how rare it is to have over a 400 OBP career over 16 to 20 years. That's unbelievable. Not only that, he won 2 World Series championships and won with the both of them with the Red Sox. And the first one was after an 86-year drought that the Boston Red Sox did not win a World Series, one of the longest streaks in the history of sports. And Mr. Cardinal Nation knows all about that. Right? I mean, when you contribute something like that to the game in general, everyone on that Red Sox team is in infamy right now. You can probably name everyone on that 2004 Red Sox squad, especially after what they did to the Yankees in that ALCS. But Manny Ramirez is known as well because not only did he win a World Series on that team, his numbers every single year he was in Fenway were top 3 in the league. Every single year. He won a batting title, he won an RBI title, he won a home run title. Manny Ramirez, everyone remembers, says, oh, he can't play defense, he can't, and you know what, he did have some magical moments out there in Fenway, going inside, using the bathroom and things like that. His offensive numbers and his contribution to the Red Sox alone put this man in the Hall of Fame. He's top 20 in almost every single category offensively. Don't forget his time with Cleveland as well, before the steroid allegations. He was a monster in Cleveland, and that was a big ballpark, where nobody besides Albert Bell could really hit there. Manny Ramirez, as a rookie, was bombing 30, 40 home runs in Cleveland. So my vote for Manny Ramirez, and by the way, his steroid was some woman's hormone. It wasn't even like some animalistic growth garbage. It was a woman a growth hormone that they use during pregnancy. He pretty much used it so that his cells can stay a little bit healthy. I mean, is it really that bad? This is a Hall of Fame guy. He brought so much to the game, and like I said, my vote is absolutely Manny Ramirez is a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. I agree with you on every point there. Manny Ramirez belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't think the steroid he used was that bad. It's not like it gave him 10 pounds of muscle. It's not like it made him a better hitter, to be able to hit more home runs, to be able to get on base more. Manny Ramirez is a great player. I mean, even in his days where he started to be one of the biggest goofballs to ever play the game, running around the Dodger outfield and doing all the different shenanigans that he had, he was still a great player to watch, and fans loved it. And, and that's another huge thing that writers need to understand is, I understand, it's not just being a fan favorite that gets you into the Hall of Fame, but he has the stats to back it up. Manny Ramirez, he needs to be in Cooperstown.
Yeah, let's not leave out what he did at the end of his career. Not only did he admit to using the topical hormone that he used, he wanted to show his son what it took to be a man, and he wanted to get back to baseball after he knew that he did this, and so he wanted to show his son that you don't just quit when times get bad. And he said he was going back to show his son that you finish what you start and you finish it right. So yes, Manny Ramirez.
You can do it.
Say it right now. Manny belongs in the Hall of Fame. There you go. Come on, Cooperstown, open that door.
Absolutely.
And for the next two, we got 4 more players we're gonna do, and the next 2 will be done by Euchre Squad.
All right. Well, we already spoke about Pudge Rodriguez on that Texas Rangers team in the early 2000s. Let's go to the next guy, Alex Rodriguez.
Oh boy.
He's reported to use steroids twice in his career, both over 3-year spans, from 2001 to 2003 with the Texas Rangers, which were his only 3 years with that organization, and from 2009 to 2011 with the New York Yankees. Again, I'm going to throw some stats at you here. In the 15 seasons that he was not reportedly using steroids, he hit 455 home runs, 1,373 RBIs, batted .285, and had 260 stolen bases. Those numbers are amazing over 15 years. 6 seasons that he was reportedly using steroids, he hit 232 home runs. 232 in 6 years. 682 RBIs, a 291 average, and 66 stolen bases. Alex Rodriguez, I don't know why you did it. Your numbers without steroids were still on top, better than a lot of people in the game. Better than almost everybody in the game at that point. I mean, it was amazing watching Alex Rodriguez play during that time. Steroids or not, he was a great player. And even without him, I think he would have easily been in the 600 home run club. I mean, he was at 455 without the 6 seasons of steroids. He's easily been in the 600 club, and that right there nowadays is enough to get yourself into the Hall of Fame. So, Alex Rodriguez, you're in my books.
Man. A-Rod is a tough case because it was twice, not once. I don't think he needed it. I mean, the guy could run. He hit like 350 twice. He could hit for power. He could play the field. He was one of the best shortstops. When he came over to the New York Yankees, there was actually talk that he was such a great shortstop that Derek Jeter should move over to third base. That's the kind of player Alex Rodriguez really was.
Yep.
Hall of Fame. Based on numbers alone, I would have to say Alex Rodriguez is a Hall of Famer. I mean, every single one of his numbers, stolen bases, home runs, runs scored, doubles, triples, everything, Alex Rodriguez is in the top 10. It's not even a debate with that. It's taken it twice. It's like Mr. Cardinal Nation said about Sammy Sosa and Palmiero. Why lie to them? Why lie about it? Why stand there and lie? Say, yeah, I took it. I mean, I didn't think it was a big deal, or I didn't think it was banned, or he said his cousin gave it to him, something called Boli from the Dominican Republic, and I don't know, I just think he took cheap ways out. He got a lot of money off of that, which hinders a lot of people's opinions about it. But if I'm saying Hall of Fame, I gotta say, yes, I gotta say Alex Rodriguez is a Hall of Famer. All his numbers combined, you can't deny them. When you think about the greatest players of all time, Alex Rodriguez is gonna come up on your list. I mean, at least it should. And he also won a World Series with the Yankees. He's got some good playoff numbers with them. Yeah, you gotta give it to him. No matter if he took it 5 times, it doesn't matter. Those numbers, he earned the Hall of Fame.
Well, like Euchre Squad said, when he was on the PEDs, steroids, whatever he was taking, his numbers significantly dropped. What a waste of time to take that, because his numbers would be significantly higher. His numbers are Hall of Fame worthy. But before we put him in, let's see how he ends his career and see what he does with it, because he's not there yet. But in the end, I would believe I would vote him in because of his numbers and everything. And like you said, being a coward, hiding from it, lying about it, you're just a coward. But Cooperstown worthy, I think so, yeah.
All right. I will move on to a guy that I know we will have a little debacle over here. The one and only Mark McGwire, another guy noted to possibly saving baseball after the strike, along with Sammy Sosa. And Cardinal Nation, calm down. All right. Mark McGwire played a total of 16 Major League seasons. Won a World Series ring in 1989. I do not have the splits on when he was a reported steroid user and when he wasn't, so I will give you his career numbers. He batted .263, had 1,626 hits, 583 home runs, which accounts for 10th all-time. He has 1,414 ribbies, 1,317 walks, and over 3,600 total bases along his career. Now, a major thing to note with Mark McGwire, as Mets King stated earlier with the 2001 ban on the 1991 ban on some steroids in Major League Baseball. McGwire admitted to using anabolic steroids, which were not banned until before the 2002 season. Mark McGwire retired after the 2001 season. So while Mark McGwire played, the steroids that he was using were perfectly legal. MLB did not ban that specific steroid. So, being on steroids or not, being 10th all-time on the home run list, his other numbers may not match up very well, but being 10th all-time on the home run list, it puts you there. And the steroids were legal. Mark McGwire belongs in the Hall of Fame.
What do you think, Carl? It's your boy. That's all right. Don't worry. They want to be part of it, you know. They like to. They have a very strong opinion on Big Mac.
She's tired. She's gonna lay down. She's gonna be all right. Go ahead, Master King. Take it over.
Oh, okay. Mark McGwire. I think I have the same issue with Mark McGwire that I do Sammy Sosa. I I think Sammy Sosa, if I'm not mistaken, actually hit more home runs than Mark McGwire. I think McGwire was in the 582 range, and Sammy Sosa had 609. So, if I didn't put Sammy Sosa in, I don't think I'm going to put Mark McGwire in either. I think outside of the home runs, I don't see Mark McGwire's numbers as getting him Hall of Fame worthy. He didn't steal bases. He wasn't a Gold Glove kind of player. He didn't lead the league in average like a Manny Ramirez. He didn't lead the league in RBIs like, a Manny Ramirez, like I said before. Besides the home runs, which again, I thank McGwire and Sammy Sosa for bringing baseball back. Without them, baseball would not be where it is today. So I give them all the credit in the world for that. But Hall of Fame numbers worthy, I don't think McGwire's numbers can stand alone to get him into the Hall of Fame.
Well, let's not forget the years that he played with the St. Louis, especially when he first got there. He's not going to get a lot of RBIs. The Cardinals were not good then. He came over and he was our superstar. So the RBIs count isn't going to go high. He is one of the players to save baseball. He took a steroid. I believe Mike Piazza took the same thing, and they both admitted to it. So there was no cowardness to it. And as soon as it was banned, they didn't take it anymore. And they did not hide behind any curtains or anything. And at the time that he was taking it, it was not banned like Euchre Squad said. Now, the reason why I say Mark McGwire goes in is because Mike Piazza was on the same thing, and Mike Piazza just got elected into the Hall of Fame. So I believe if Piazza being on the same PED gets in, so does Mark McGwire. Because Mark McGwire, well, batting-wise, was a way better player.
All right, that's very true. And now for our last two MLB players to be reported on steroids, we will kick it over to Mets King.
Okay, everyone's favorite swinger, Mr. Gary Sheffield, will be next. According to Cardinal Nation, we did all the research on this. Great research. It was a cream steroid that Gary Sheffield was accused of taking. In Sheffield's career, he had 509 career home runs. He had 1,600 RBIs. He had 292 with an OBP of 393. Anytime your OBP is 100 points higher than your average, you did a great job in your career. He had, this is the thing about Gary Sheffield that I think separates it from a lot of players. You heard me talk about Palmiero's strikeout to walk ratio. Gary Sheffield had the hardest, most violent swing in the history of baseball. You would think this guy struck out more than anybody. Gary Sheffield never once struck out more than 100 times. As a matter of fact, Gary Sheffield only struck out over 90 times once in his 16-year career. Once. With that hard of a swing, how in the world can you make contact so much not to strike out over 100 times? You look at a guy like Chris Davis today striking out 200 times, and he definitely doesn't swing as hard as Gary Sheffield did. We'll throw in 252 stolen bases for Mr. Sheffield. We'll throw in a gun of an arm for Gary Sheffield. Him, Vladimir Guerrero, and Ichiro Suzuki have three of the best arms I've seen in a very long time.
Edmonds.
The debate about it's so tough with Sheffield. I mean, just getting over 500 home runs doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame anymore, especially with the steroids. The RBI total was good. The stolen bases were good. The average in OBP is good. The strikeout to walk is amazing. I'm on the fence with Sheffield. It's just so close. I really don't know if I would vote him in or not. Definitely not first ballot. I wouldn't. I think if he gets in maybe after the 4th or 5th vote, that's when I would vote him in. But he's a Hall of Fame type player, I would say, with or without steroids. And eventually, I do think he should get in. So that's my take on him. But it is close. It's very close with Gary Sheffield.
We were talking before we started this, and I agreed with Mets King wholeheartedly. I really didn't know whether Gary Sheffield should go into the Hall of Fame or not. Listening to it again and thinking about it a little more, he was a great all-around player. You think of the 5-tool outfielders, the 5-tool athletes in baseball, so they call it, where, they can run, they can hit contact, they can hit power, they can play the field. Gary Sheffield was one of those guys. I mean, his stolen bases weren't miraculous by any means. You know, they're not like Ricky Henderson numbers or Ozzie Smith numbers. But he stole bases for a guy that also hit for a lot of power. And like Mets King said, I don't think he's first ballot, but he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame at some point.
Gary Sheffield, I believe, belongs in the Hall of Fame. I remember watching him play a lot. I used to think, man, that guy swings so hard. Why is he always up there swinging so hard? And every time, it seemed like every time there it goes, it's over, it's gone. You know, it didn't have to be a home run. It bounced off the wall. And he could get a triple off it. He wasn't the fastest runner, but bounced off the wall and go this way. Players are going that way. But the numbers are Hall of Fame worthy for sure. I don't think he ever really was a problem in a clubhouse. You never heard anything bad about him, really. He seemed like to be a good team player. I mean, it's sad that he used the PED or whatever. But the numbers don't lie on him either. He truly does. I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to get it.
And one of my favorite things about Gary Sheffield, obviously a little biased, he hit his 500th home run with the New York Mets. And in his last year before he retired, I just want to say, not many people can hit 20 home runs in a year and then retire. Because if you hit 20 home runs in a season, you have a lot left. But Gary Sheffield retired after that, knowing he possibly could have hit 20 home runs somewhere else. That's just the kind of player this man was. Now we're going to get to our...
Real quick, Mets King. I actually forgot about this earlier. I believe his 500th home run was actually off the Brewers.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
At Citi Field, I remember.
It was against the Brewers in Citi Field.
But I mean, the Brewers are known for giving up a lot of records. I mean, it's the Brewers. But anyway, the last person, this one is a big debate because this person is actually going to retire after this year, and that's Big Papi David Ortiz. In his career so far, you remember him hitting his 500th home run last year. He has 503 homers, 1,641 RBIs, a career 284 average, an OBP of 378, once again around that 100 points OBP over average. He has struck out 1,600 times compared to 1,300 walks, but, you know, he's a DH and he's got a lot of power. You kind of expect that. It's not like Sammy Sosa's 2,900. He's won 3 World Series championships. And this man wasn't just on the team that won 3 World Series championships. David Ortiz was a major reason these teams won 3 World Series. And that's the same thing with Manny Ramirez. The 2004 Boston Red Sox. Everyone remembers this team for being the Yankees. Remembers this team for the 86 long years in waiting where they finally won a championship. He was such a huge part with to that, along with Manny Ramirez. And let's not forget that he's a DH. How many DHs are going to get into the Hall of Fame? You got maybe Edgar Martinez and Frank Thomas. Who else after that? David Ortiz might be the last of his kind. I think David Ortiz gets in the Hall of Fame strictly for this. David Ortiz was a DH. There's not many DHs that can do what he does. And he's got the numbers to prove it, the World Series titles to prove it. Over 500 home runs, over 1,600 RBIs, the 100-point OBP to average. Giving the Red Sox World Series. I mean... he's a great man as well. Every time you hear this guy talk, he's always fun. He's always trying to, you know, he's done a lot for his hometown. He's done a lot for Americans. When Boston went through the Boston Marathon, the first voice I remember hearing was David Ortiz standing there and saying, "This is our city, Boston strong." So, you know, everything about David Ortiz screams Hall of Fame to me, in my opinion.
All right, here's my thing with David Ortiz. He's one of my all-time favorite players. I grew up, you know, in just slightly later years than you guys have, where David Ortiz has had all of his major playing time, including that World Series. My biggest thing, Edgar Martinez and Frank Thomas absolutely belong to be in the Hall of Fame. But the thing with David Ortiz is he gets paid to work on his batting 365 days a year. He is only a batter. He does not play the field, and when he does, it's not pretty. You know, I really do like David Ortiz. I think his offensive numbers do put him in the Hall of Fame as one of the last of his kind at DH. But it's really hard being a DH just because, you know, you're not like all the other players in the majors. You get to just focus on your hitting 24/7, 365. Other guys have to worry about their defense, their glove. He just focuses on hitting. and I think, and being a DH, that just takes a hit for me. But